deserves a common sense Prime Minister who will unite us all, who will recognize, respect, and embrace the differences of this vast country. A Prime Minister who will make a policy that makes us all better and all better off. One who will bring us together with his vision and ensure there is a place for every Canadian on his team. A Prime Minister for all Canadians who will unite us by making us see that we count, that every Canadian counts, no matter who they voted for. If Canadians feel strongly about something, a Prime Minister should listen, not attack and insult them. If thousands of Canadians feel so strongly about something that they get into their vehicles and drive to Ottawa to be heard, the Prime Minister should pay attention.
So it was a really great moment and a really powerful moment, especially when you think that it's only the opening ceremony. And so it's why when I had the chance to meet with them and ask them their opinion, we mostly talk with them about the national defense. But at the end, I wanted to have their take on the Freedom Convoy. And so I had a small clip over about the Freedom Convoy.
Do we have that clip to share as well, or would that be from the full report?
Yeah, it's from the full report that's coming up, but I share a small clip, and this is this one.
It still is that all Canadians matter. It doesn't matter who you voted for. The Prime Minister, as the elected Prime Minister, is responsible to look after me as well. He's everyone's Prime Minister. So thousands of people were upset about whatever the reason is. If they come this all the way to Ottawa, they deserve to be heard. And what happened afterward was not necessary. I firmly believe that had the Prime Minister met the convoy, they knew, my God, we all knew they were coming. It never would have deteriorated into what happened, and we would have saved millions of dollars, and these people would not be on trial today. The result of the convoy was his fault, and he should have known better. And I firmly stand by that belief.
And she's right. Like, nobody will have been in trial today. Nobody will have been beat up, trampled, or even shot like me if the Prime Minister had just the courage to meet with the protester and talk with them. Because in a healthy democracy, it's communication. And if you cannot have that skill in this kind of situation where your own people are enough mad, frustrating, and desperate to drive all the way to Ottawa to speak with you, and you don't have like the single courage to accord them a couple of minutes of your time, this just shows that you are not made to be a leader of a country. So I let you. What is your thought about that?
Well, remember, the whole reason why he didn't come out and meet the convoy originally was he tested positive for COVID, apparently, for the second time, I believe it was. And I think he probably already had 2 doses of the novel mRNA injection at that point. And so he really went into hiding, because we all know that famous clip now where Trudeau says, oh, this is a small fringe minority on their way to Ottawa to air unacceptable views, is, essentially both direct quotes and paraphrasing a little bit. And so I don't think, coupled with the Ottawa Police Services, who had also just instituted their own vaccine mandate and lost a fraction of their force, they were not prepared for the breadth and the magnitude of the trucker convoy that made its way into Ottawa, that really just continued to grow, right? There was that first weekend where they were completely overwhelmed. And then every weekend thereafter, that grassroots movement continued to swell that downtown core, and logistics were a nightmare. And that's part of the Tamara Lich trial coverage that we're doing, is sorting out some of those details on what went wrong and why. And so a big part of it was that the Ottawa Police Services were not prepared. They were told directly from the police were told directly from their supervisors, and perhaps there was political meddling in there as well from the Prime Minister's office, not to concede 1 inch to the convoy. They weren't willing to work with them. The convoy always did keep that 1 lane open for emergency access and traffic and pedestrians and so on. So I think we're going to find out a lot of these details in terms of the ineptitude that was at play, the political interference. And I hope that those details start to come to light, because it's a lot of things that we've suspected all along. And you hear grumblings about if you have ever spoken to anybody who was involved in the Freedom Convoy, like Tom Marazzo, like Tamara Leach, like Chris Barber. I mean, the list is endless. There was a whole team dedicated to what they were doing and how to best get their message across, because I think we have to remember as well that Canadians had been ignored by all levels of government. If you questioned the COVID regime, if you questioned the narrative, if you said, hey, these lockdown measures are harming my children, you were framed as some sort of selfish grandma killer and completely disregarded and ignored. And so this was the culmination of 2 years of Canadians being ignored by their political representatives. Those people, in a democracy that we're supposed to have, you elect those representatives to represent you. And what Canadians were finding was that was just not happening. And so they took to the nation's capital, which is historically where you would go to protest and air grievances, to hopefully have their voices finally heard. And instead of hearing them, Trudeau slandered them, name called them, gaslit them. And then you had their mainstream media lapdogs basically running a concerted slandering campaign to paint these protesters as, this fringe minority with far right extremist views. When in fact, there was a diversity of thought, a diversity of opinion. And all these people wanted was to finally get back to the normalcy we had in the pre-COVID era. So the whole handling of this was obviously heavy-handed and shows how inept the government really has been. I would argue since 2015, when the Trudeau Liberals took office, but been very much heightened by the COVID response.
The wellness company Spike Support Formula is an all-natural supplement to help the people experiencing effects from COVID and the you-know-what. Go to twccanada.health/rebel today.